There are probably a lot of plants you can recognize without a second glance. But what about those you've never even heard of? There's some fascinating plants out there, and most you will want for your garden. What better way to make it bigger, bolder, and better than ever? From the plant that only flowers for a few days, to imagine anything more unappealing than the stench of rotting flesh, particularly when the source of that stench is a flower. The Titan arum blooms for just 3 days and is the largest unbranched. Their flowers form into clusters that are arranged on a stem that consists of just one main branch. Stem of the Titan arum can reach over 3 meters in height. It's quite the imposing sight. And all consist of groups of flowers wrapped by a leaf that looks like a large petal. Eden Project in Cornwall. This incredible plant is native to western Sumatra in Indonesia and is listed as one of the world's biggest flowering plants. On its final journey to death, it releases a pungent. This is why the Titan arum is also known as the corpse flower. It's quite fitting, really. Go to a rainforest and you catch a glimpse of what appears to be a bush full of puckered red lips. Your eyes aren't deceiving you. These beautiful floral arrangements are called Psychotria alata, or simply hot lips. This tropical plant is found in rainforests across Central and South America, including Ecuador, Costa Rica, Panama, and Colombia. It is extremely sensitive and requires a specific climate to grow. Described as more of a shrub than a flower, the Psychotria alata is part of the Rubiaceae family. Members of this family are recognized by their unusual leaves rather than their flowers. Yes, the luscious red lips that you see on this plant are actually its leaves. The flowers aren't nearly as memorable as they sit inside the lips, hidden from view. And they're not just any lips either. These resemble those of Angelina Jolie and Mick Jagger, perfectly puckered and ready to kiss. No wonder they're nicknamed hot lips. Just like an attractive woman, these lips have seductive powers. But not to draw interest from a partner, they help the plant to attract pollinators like butterflies and hummingbirds. The plant also has special powers too. Its bark and leaves are great for treating skin rashes, coughs, and earaches. Rhinum majus, snapdragon. A flower believed to possess supernatural powers has been a popular and common plant in the gardens of many for years. The Antirrhinum, commonly known as the snapdragon or dragon flower, resembles a dragon's head. When squeezed, the dragon looks to open and close its mouth, with just a flaming breath missing. Children find them fascinating, with many pulled apart by their overly eager hands. But fortunately, the surprises continue, because once the flower has died, the seed pod left behind looks like a skull. It's little wonder, then, that ancient cultures believed the flower could offer them protection from deceit, curses, and witchcraft if they were planted in their garden. And that's not the only belief surrounding the snapdragon. Yet another myth maintains that they are able to restore youthfulness and beauty to any woman who eats them. Now, if you ask me, you'd have to be pretty vain to try this one out for size, wouldn't you say? Just how many heads are required for such a potion hasn't been confirmed. It's surprising, however, that more witches didn't raid gardens to snatch them in the hope of repairing their haggard features. In fact, it makes you wonder whether the rumors about their magical powers are even true. A trap. When you think about plants and what they eat, you might imagine they're herbivores, dining on plants and plants alone. Most of the time, you'd be right. But in the case of the Dionea muscipula, things are a little different. More commonly known as the Venus flytrap, this fascinating looking plant is a meat eater catching its unsuspecting prey in its leaves. The plant prefers to dine on insects and arachnids that it attracts using its sweet nectar. As they crawl along the leaves and come into contact with tiny hairs called trigger hairs, the trap prepares to close, snapping shut whilst they're inside. There's plenty of room in the trap, with adult plants typically measuring around 2.5 centimeters in length. Giant varieties can reach up to 5 centimeters. Without a doubt the most famous and fascinating carnivorous plant in the world, the Venus flytrap has a very limited native range, growing only in the coastal bogs of North and South Carolina. Unfortunately, the habitat destruction has proved detrimental to the plant's survival, and it is believed flying duck. As soon as you set eyes on this flower, you will easily guess its nickname. The Calliana major, or flying duck flower, is a one-of-a-kind orchid native to the Australian wilderness. They are usually spotted in the open forests and woodlands of Queensland, South Australia, Tasmania, and Victoria, New South Wales, and were first described by Robert Brown in 1810. He named the single species orchid in honor of English botanist and explorer George Cayley. The orchid can grow up to 20 inches tall and boasts the unique duck-like flower in shades of purple with red and brown tints. These colors make the resemblance uncanny. It's hard to miss. It typically blooms between September and January and is a cheeky wee devil when it comes to pollination. Insects get caught in the beak of the flying duck orchid and unintentionally release pollen while struggling to break free. How handy is that? Sadly, this orchid is not available to purchase as a household plant, as they are included on Australia's vulnerable plant list, on the brink of being endangered. This is mainly due to the destruction of their habitat and subsequent loss of their pollinator. Bee orchid. Orchids are clearly a fascinating flower, with many different variations, some more obvious than others. The Ophrys epiphyra is definitely different and looks to play host to an oversized bee within its leaves. More commonly known as the bee orchid, this short and stocky flower has a rosette of leaves at ground level. 2 or 3 of these leaves grow up the stem to form a sheath protecting the flower inside. Petals shaped and colored like the body of a visiting bee are perched within large pink sepals. These sepals look like the bee's wings. It really is impressive, and the deception doesn't stop there. Not only does the flower have the brown and yellow markings of a bee, it is hairy to touch and emits a female bee scent. Its aim is to attract passing male bees in the hope that they will try to mate and thus aid in pollination. In Britain, however, these orchids self-pollinate, so the deception isn't really necessary. Often found in open grassland, disused quarries, sand dunes, roadsides, and even waste ground, the bee orchid sometimes behaves like a rampant weed. It is very common in mainland Britain, but numbers have declined in Ireland, where its habitat has been destroyed. As such, the bee orchid is a protected species in Northern Ireland. Psittacina, parrot flower. This very rare and beautiful flower can't be found in just any old garden. It is believed to be more commonly found in various countries in Southeast Asia and the tropical forests of Thailand, where it is a protected species. Officially known as the impatient Psittacina, the flower is gorgeous and resembles a flying cockatoo. As such, it is often referred to as the parrot flower. The flower needs an extremely hot and wet climate to survive, and because export is forbidden, it cannot be enjoyed in a household garden. For those keen on coloring up their garden with this unique bloom, there are seeds for sale on websites. Unfortunately, they are counterfeit and not likely to create quite the same result, but hey, it might be an option worth exploring. Another issue that inhibits the plant's growth is the fact that very little is known about the pollinators. Some say that it's a small bat or bird, others believe that it may be wasps or large bees. And although the flower itself looks beautiful in pictures, don't be deceived. The bush it grows on is not. It is untidy and wide-leafed and can grow as tall as 6 feet. Not to mention, the flower only blooms for a few weeks around October to November, so it's hardly worth the hassle, really. Once harvested, they are also said to quickly lose their visual appeal. Biggest flower in the world, Rafflesia arnoldii. Many flowers across the globe are popular for their beauty and perfume. This bloom offers neither. Not only is it terribly unattractive, it smells awful. Listed as the world's largest bloom, the Rafflesia arnoldii is a rare flower found in the rainforests of Indonesia, 3 feet wide, and can weigh almost 25 pounds, depending on its age. The plant has no roots or stem, but it is parasitic, attaching itself to a host plant to obtain water and nutrients. When it blooms, it emits a repulsive odor, similar to that of rotting meat. It might sound disgusting, but the odor does have a purpose. It helps the Rafflesia arnoldii to attract insects that pollinate it. They obviously aren't all that fussy. The plant was discovered by Sir Stamford Raffles in 1818 when he described it as a naturalist Dr. James Arnold. This jungle parasite is one of the rarest plants in the world. It's also on the verge of extinction. The Rafflesia arnoldii seeds are difficult to germinate, and its parasitic properties means it's at the mercy of its host plant. This is a dangerously cavalier approach to life, because without the vine, it's Methuselah, oldest tree in the world. If you've ever heard the saying, as old as Methuselah, you're about to find out where it came from. Methuselah himself was a biblical patriarch, a figure in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and apparently the grandfather of Noah.
Methuselah Grove, a grove of the world's oldest trees.
It's believed that he died at the age of 969 and is considered one of the longest living of all figures mentioned in the Bible. For this reason, one of the oldest trees in the world was named the Methuselah tree. Makes sense, right? This tree grows high in the White Mountains of Inyo County in eastern California and is believed to be 4,851 years old. Until 2013, it was considered the oldest on the planet, but a bristlecone pine in the Inyo National Forest now lays claim to that prize, as it is over 5,000 years old. Both trees' exact locations are a highly guarded secret to ensure their protection. The Methuselah tree was discovered at tree, contrary to popular trick underneath their bark. Officially named the Eucalyptus deglupta, they are so colorful that they almost look like a colored pencil being sharpened. This happens when they shed their bark. Underneath is a colorful surprise, a spectacle that is unforgettable.
As the bark peels away, you get multiple beautiful colors.
The tree is the only eucalyptus to live in the rainforest and one of 150 feet in the air. But although its height is impressive, it's the tree's multicolor bark that makes it stand out amongst the crowd. Mirabilis Tree Tumbo. What looks like a lump of dead flax is instead one of the most bizarre-looking perennial plants in the world. The Welwitschia mirabilis, or tree tumbo, was presented to the Royal Botanic Gardens, Kew, in 1863, and the gift was met with an unusual response. Regius Keeper said the plant was the most wonderful plant ever brought to the country, but also one of the utterance of flax. Many tree tumbo have been examined, with some of the larger plants believed to be over 1,500 years old. So not only are they ugly, they're also strong. A simian, monkey, or option of a monkey face. I'm not convinced. If this is a monkey face, it's a pretty angry one with Dracula-like teeth.
This one here is one of my favorites, and very red, kind of a deep red, very fuzzy as well.
The Dracula simian, or monkey orchid, certainly isn't the type of plant you would enjoy having in the garden unless it was chosen for Halloween value alone. This unusual orchid is sure to have a captive audience, but it's not the easiest flower to find. They are known to inhabit the southeastern Ecuadorian and Peruvian cloud forests from elevations between 1,000 and 2,000 meters. If you're keen on catching a glimpse of one in its natural habitat, you best prepare yourself for a bit of a hike. Intrepid collectors have made it a little easier for those keen on owning a monkey orchid themselves, with a number of specialty nurseries now offering the plant for sale. They are not recommended for beginner orchid growers though, and will not thrive or bloom if their conditions are less than ideal. A fussy little character, you'll need to have a serious Aristolochia salvadorensis, known as the Darth Vader flower. Photos of these amazing but slightly sinister looking blooms can be found all over the internet. However, most people will never have the opportunity to see this rare plant in its natural environment. The woody climber is native to the humid meadows and soggy flood plains of Brazil. Like many plants that grow in challenging environments, the Darth Vader's appearance is one that has come about due to adaptations. These adaptations have been made by the plant itself to ensure its survival. Its helmet-like shape, purple coloration, and powerful aroma of rotting flesh make it seem even more sinister than its namesake. The stench, however, has a purpose, as it helps the plant to attract insect pollinators. Once enticed, they fly through the bloom's luminous eyes, where the unfortunate guests are imprisoned long enough for their pollen to be removed. They are then released.